I could do. So roll call of members. Steve Whitman is here. Jack Scarborough, Bonnie Sears, Bridget Powers, Ryan Murphy, and Marianne Barnsley. Has everyone had time to review the last minutes? We still need more time to look those over. Has anyone seen anything that needs to be changed?
I looked them over. I didn't see anything.
I'm going to abstain because I wasn't here.
And I looked them over. They look great to me, especially the part about me graciously offering something. She captured the essence of that moment.
And I told her to.
I will make a motion to accept the minutes.
A second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Aye.
Sorry, no. Sorry I was late.
Opposed? No. Okay. Minutes are accepted as presented. Are there any public comments unrelated to tonight's agenda? Seeing none, let's move on to administrative matters. Continuing our work on the master plan. What do we have?
Can I just make a request before you look at?
Yes.
So these five people that are in the front row are here to talk with us about volume 2. They're working on volume 2. And so if we could do that before we get into this, in case some of them have to go. Okay. That'd be great.
Yeah. Nice. What do you want to talk about? Volume 2.
So first off, the 5 of us are just a few of the students from Steve's class for the community research experience capstone at Plymouth. And we are tasked with helping to update volume 2 of the master plan. I'm Noah.
I'm Noah.
It's Reagan. I'm Dylan.
I'm Zach.
Albany.
And so the purpose of us coming to this meeting tonight is to let you know that we have sent you our updated version of the first chapter of volume 2, and to ask for any feedback that you may have on the work that we have done so far.
Yeah, this personally.
Not tonight. You don't need to.
Oh, not tonight. You don't want it tonight.
Within 2 weeks.
Oh, within 2 weeks. Are we going to talk about it though? Yeah. Okay.
So we just wanted to let you know a little bit about the status of the plan. So we have sent it to you. It is sort of like in your hands. I believe Rebecca was sort of the point person for that. There is one section of data that's missing. I believe it's in Part A, Section 3, births and deaths data. We just needed a little bit more time to work on it. We have since found the data to update that, and we have someone working on that now, so we'll get it to you as soon as we can. There's also 2 sections within what we have sent you that are copied right from the previous plan, because those are sections of planning considerations, and we felt that those would probably be more your responsibility to sort of look at what we have found and reflect from your first volume that you've written already, I believe, and sort of use both of that information to write those planning considerations. So there is content there. We haven't edited it all. We thought maybe you could use it as a template to work on those sections for us.
And on that note, just wanting you guys to make you aware that it's a rough draft, so there's probably some grammatical errors in there. Yeah.
Ruthless.
My section maybe. So we were just going to put out there if you guys want to go through that and correct it, or we're more than welcome to take it back and we'll go through it and correct it, whatever you guys want to do. We're comfortable with either way. And that we're really still eager to finishing this, and as Noah said, trying to get it back in like 2 weeks so we can move on with it.
Got it.
Did we get it?
I sent it to Rebecca and I CC'd Steve.
It was just finalized in class today.
Oh, okay.
Because we had a March 1st kind of delivery date that we put out there for this one, and then April 1st and May 1st. So we just squeaked in on March 1st. And they wanted to send it so that they could say that you'll have it for Rebecca to distribute. We thought 2 weeks was a reasonable amount of time. The one section that really needs the most work is just these bulleted planning considerations, which seemed like it was a stretch to have them making those conclusions. Everything else is in pretty solid shape, and even if it needs tweaking, it'll be minor tweaking, I think. and then the copy editing of the final thing. We really want to make sure that the facts and the flow of it work.
Right.
If somebody has a lot of time and wants to sit by their fireplace and do it, you're welcome to. But if not, they can do it.
Yeah, I'd be happy to look at it. I'm sure, we all, as much help as we can, and we appreciate it. I thought you were talking about the vision section we already had, so I see where you're coming from. Yeah.
Yeah, that was the last document I got from Rebecca.
Right, yeah.
I think when it went out today.
Right.
I may have
Right,
missed it.
which we were aware of, but we
Yeah.
just wanted to kind of give you a heads
Yeah.
up about what was coming. So.
If I may,
Yes.
I think this Vision 1, Chapter 1 vision is probably one of the best, most professional formats I've seen. And I like it.
Yeah, I agree. I was.
He's not here tonight, but they can.
Yeah. So okay, that was a totally separate.
I love the integration of the imagery. It flows, the imagery flows with the text. It's a very, very good job.
So the volume 2, which you might remember was kind of like the appendix, very text heavy.
Mhm.
It's still that way. It has a lot of graphics that they've updated through 2016, a couple cases 2017, but
Yeah.
The formatter for volume 1, who worked on the vision section, said that when all 3 of the volume 2 sections are done, he'll do a little bit of a format just so like the footer or something ties together.
Consistency, great.
Will he be able to, and I don't want to make it imagery heavy,
Yeah.
but will he be able to integrate additional images into those rather mundane sections?
If that's something we ask for, if we know where.
I thought if we can afford that, I don't know if it gets more expensive.
That was my next
Put in
question.
there, but if I thought, because that will make people want to read the whole document. They'll look at some of the photographs. It'll be something people will actually look at.
Yeah, these aren't normally published like the town reports are. They're not bound. These are published from here. So we keep copies for the general public, but most of it'll reside on our server, and it will also be on the website. So everything will be super on
So
that.
then it's not distributed to lots of people.
If somebody wanted
Yeah.
it, they could get one, but
Yeah.
it's,
But most people will see it on the screen.
Right.
So it's
Yep.
nice that it
Yeah.
looks this way.
Yeah.
And I guess technically, as many people do, or organizations do, you could have 2 versions. You could have
Yes.
the visual, and then you could have just a flat paper copy.
yeah.
So
Well, the way copiers are working these days,
it's hard to
if
tell.
you do it black and white versus color, is it
Yeah.
a couple cents?
That's right.
Who knows? But, if they wanted to go down that, fine. We just print the whole thing in black and white, which pops the text anyway instead of the.
So can I ask a procedural question as a planning board member? I'm not affiliated with you guys. The way that I think Chris and Jack, you guys have been working on refining a lot of the text as a subcommittee. So is there a way that we'll approach volume 2 in like a 2-week timeline? Is there a subcommittee that's going to review it? Are we going to pass it around and pull it all into one set of comments if any of us find anything? Like, how are we going to feed this back?
I've pretty well gone through Chapter 2.
Well, this is
Volume
volume
The
2.
second volume. This is.
Yeah, I've gone through that.
You have.
But now all the dates, everything's different.
Everything's different, and that is something that I would propose perhaps you all could help us with.
No, they have.
They have?
emailed
Okay.
it today. So
Okay.
Rebecca, you haven't had a chance to see it.
Okay, great.
But I'm wondering if you want to have another crack at it, or if everyone's going to look at it.
Yeah, we could divide it up by
I'd be happy
pages
to.
too, for that matter, just to share the wealth. I think it worked very well to have 2 principals
Right.
taking care of that.
Right.
And then we'd all meet back and discuss it. If everybody just does it willy-nilly, you're going to kind of say, well, I missed this part, but Chris will get it, and you end up not getting the whole thing.
And I think what we did the last time, like Rebecca was kind of a clearinghouse. Everything went to her, sort of filtered through us. So we knew what was updated. So we weren't constantly re-editing each other's stuff. And I think that we would probably do something like that again. Yeah. Yeah, and I thought that worked out well when you and I got together.
Right.
Kind of or anybody else who wants to.
Yeah.
Not to exclude.
Well, and we have to be careful.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
That wasn't-
But certainly I don't
that was
want-
a gang sign. That was,
Yeah.
you can't-
Yeah,
We're
we would have to
prohibited-
post
we're
the meeting and take
prohibited.
minutes if there was a quorum, so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We found it easier just to go just below the limit.
And was it set as a Word document, correct?
Yes.
Yeah.
Good.
So you have already sent it to Rebecca. She'll share it with us. We'll
Yeah.
give her the feedback, and it'll get back to you.
Perfect.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then we're going to get underway next week, starting on Volume 2, Part 2, Chapter 2, Section 2.
The data, what do we call? Did we call it something else?
All three of them are pretty data
Yeah.
oriented.
Weren't we referring to those as
All of volume 2 was previously called the data book.
the
Yes.
data
Right.
book? Yeah.
Mhm.
Right.
And I can't recall if we decided to call it volume 2 or the data book
Or
this
the
time.
appendix, or,
Something else.
well, volume 2, but with a, like, here's where the data is. The data book, I think, is what Frank had suggested.
Okay.
And, that sounds
That works.
very to
It
the point,
differentiates it so we know. what
Yes.
we're talking
Right.
about.
Yeah.
It's otherwise it's quite confusing.
Yeah.
So then the plan would be there'd be a different group of 5. We have 15 in the class. So there'd be a different group of 5 that could come at the beginning of April after we've resolved the first section to talk to you about the second section and deliver that. So it would be spread out and be done with it in May.
And I don't know the census of the rest of the board, but if they could adhere to the format that they have in this first chapter 1, carry that somewhat through, granted it's tabular, I think that'd be a great idea. The data's there, the chapter's sound, it's more formatting.
Okay.
Steve, could you make sure that I get initial copies of all this stuff for my archive?
Yeah. Did we CC Brian or did you?
I tried to, but I actually didn't have your email.
Oh,
so
here.
I wasn't able to, but I can send it. I can send it.
My last card. There you go, it's right at the bottom.
I'll send it.
Thank you.
Okay. So we're all set with everything we need to do with you guys, right? Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you.
So I guess the next thing you should do, Jack, well, I guess we should discuss the volume 1. And just give I guess we give Steve the feedback on this, or would we somehow, whoever created this?
Or whatever we can capture in the minutes, but I'll take notes.
Okay. And I second what Jack said. I think I actually read through the whole thing. I didn't the first time I looked at it, I just kind of skimmed around. And the second time I actually read through it, I saw nothing in there
Yeah.
that,
I think it's sound.
And I don't think he made any changes to content. He took the content you guys worked on that went through the planning board. He didn't change it. He just worked with the layout. He did it in InDesign. He said this took him about 3 hours, but now that he's not helping with volume 2, so that's part of the deal we worked out in the class. But now that he's got this set up, he feels that moving through the next couple of sections is going to be relatively easy, and he's happy to carry the format into the data book. And he's also happy to appear before you. He has a conflict with in that class, so we're just going to work on that and have him at a time that the groups are not here. I sent him the acknowledgements information.
Okay.
So he's starting to put together like table of contents, acknowledgements, a
Okay.
signature page, and I'll help him with other master plan documents we have if he's missing any of that. And he'll work towards having a full draft, fully formatted. But he wanted to just get some initial feedback. So if you saw this and said we have a problem,
Yeah.
or that there were any substantial changes that he wouldn't continue to format it that way, that he could adjust to your changes. He based this on the meeting minutes and the notes Rebecca shared from your conversation last time.
Okay, yep.
So he took some of the color considerations and image considerations and tried to reflect that, not having met you guys.
And is there going to be? Who's going to design an actual cover for this thing? Because
He can do that.
he can. Yeah.
I think we should end up with a complete document, and he would like it as a portfolio document for him. So we said if we include his name in the acknowledgements for doing the formatting. So yeah, he's from Concord. he's about to graduate. He wants like a real world experience.
Oh, absolutely. And I was going to mention that if you saw anybody lacking in the acknowledgements, it should be there. Don't hesitate to add them to it. You know, I just kind of pulled off the top of my head and got the ones that were defined in the town meeting from the dates that was given me, you know, as to who was here at the time.
Yeah, and that looked pretty comprehensive, yet I'll really, the other acknowledgements in the previous master plan where it's like
Yeah, it was everybody by
anybody who
name,
lived
right.
in town. So I thought that seemed more reasonable, but I guess I couldn't see anybody that shouldn't have been on there. But, you know, I wasn't in on the very beginning of the master plan from the ground floor, so if
Nobody
anyone
was.
else, yeah, I guess.
That you were, weren't you, Jack?
Yep.
Yeah, so if anyone comes up with something, I guess we'll pass that along to Rebecca also. So if there's, nobody has any, yes, Bridget.
I just, on page 3, see the 2018 update of the master plan. The spacing is not consistent with the rest of those headings, and I think I see that's because he ran out of space, maybe.
Okay.
But there's no space before it where there is a page 3, C.
Yep. Okay. Got it. He said there were a few things that you might see like that he just didn't want to finish massaging. And I'll pass that on.
I was just wondering with these, I don't know where the pictures are.
Yeah.
Should there, I'm just thinking, if I didn't know this town, I wouldn't know what this
Do you
was.
think like a caption?
That's what I was thinking, you know,
Yeah.
in any picture, because no, you know, other than the covered bridge, we know, you know, that's pretty.
I think that's.
And that way, if there's credit, we can put that with the caption too.
So we probably need to help him with that.
Okay.
So for the pictures we have in there, do you want to just do them quickly?
Okay.
Good idea.
Just so that you're all comfortable with the words that we
Yep.
use. You probably don't need to do it if it's part of the formatting like this first page, right?
Right.
But the next one that Bonnie pointed out is
Amphitheater.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the Riverside Amphitheater.
Riverside Amphitheater. That's page 2.
Smith Millennial Bridge. Page
Page 3.
4.
4,
Page 4.
It's Millennium, isn't it?
Millennium.
Smith Millennium Bridge.
Yeah. Page 5, I don't even know where that is.
It's
that's
Main Street, 250th.
Yes.
I was not a fan of that either.
Yeah, I know it was.
Yeah, it's a bad picture
bad
of,
picture.
it should be looking up the street,
You
but,
want to pick a different picture?
yeah, the same thing, but, you know, showing the
So
fire.
page 5, change to at grade, like an at
Yes.
grade image.
Yes.
Thank you guys.
Was there a
Thanks,
picture?
good
when
night.
Thanks.
There's a bazillion of them.
Yeah, okay. Yeah.
Just a matter of picking them. I
And
think
it was
it was
Main
more
Street
for the,
250th
Yes.
celebration? Parade?
Parade.
Okay. Parade.
and it's kind of obvious that these were put in just to show where they would be, because, you
The
know,
spacers.
can't see the top of the bridge and that kind of stuff. I mean, you know.
Right. Well, it could have been, it could be that, or it could be artistic license, so if you
Yeah.
don't like something like that, I think we need to tell them.
I'm not a huge fan of the big, long underlines. I don't know why, it just,
Under the headings?
yeah,
You want to just drop the underlines?
I don't know,
Should we bolden the headings and drop the underline, or?
maybe.
See, I like the underlines. There's something about it I like. It kind of separates everything
section
really good for me, but, you know, everybody's different.
Would it be better if there was a space underneath the underline before the paragraph?
Well, when I look at A, that just kind of looks cramped in that space, and that's the most important statement of vision for someone's future, because that doesn't seem, I know there will be a cover page too, right?
There'll be a front cover, yeah.
Right.
No, I think it starts with the table of contents, probably.
Yeah, cover.
Or acknowledgement.
Acknowledgement.
I don't know specifically what about it bothers me, it just does.
Well, here's a question. It's set up like an outline for the major headings.
Yeah?
Do we really need ABC? Because they don't refer, it's just self-referential. Because if it was a vision for Plymouth's future,
Yeah.
and then why is it important?
Yeah.
I
Without,
don't
you know,
think you need those either.
no.
So you want to drop,
And in the same regard, maybe center.
Yes, that would take away the onus of the underlining.
Great idea.
so dropping the ABC from the headers,
Mm-hmm.
centering,
Mm-hmm.
and we can drop the underline for now. Give Bonnie a chance to object.
Well, I mean, I said what I just said I like it. That doesn't mean anything really. It's just my opinion.
I think another aspect of it is when I talked to him, he was pretty proud that he got it from 7 pages to 6 pages.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if he was thinking that, I was surprised by that, and I don't know if he was thinking we were printing it and he was trying to help us out. But I think in a couple places, a space could give a lot, just a little bit of breathing room.
Yes.
You know, there's a break.
It feels a little cramped
Okay.
to me as
Yeah.
well.
And once it's set up, it'll immediately generate new pages in correct format as you
Right.
insert stuff. So
Yeah.
it should,
So it's not a hardship.
it's the least. Excellent.
And I don't know where, but in here, it talks about 166 items that were identified as in the, how do you, 166 items identified through all the surveys, and I thought we had talked about that as we need to take a look at that, actually. and-
Right, and I think the idea was we figure at this point, because we've edited this thing so much, that is that number accurate?
Yeah.
I don't think anyone's gonna count up, because it's gotta be close, but we might want to make it a little more open-ended, like
A great number.
approximately or more than, you know,
Yeah.
something like that.
Yeah. And I think a more general number, like more than 100.
Yeah, more than 160, something like that, yeah.
Do you know where it's in this part of the
Yeah,
document?
it's actually page 2, under what the master plan is, second bullet.
Yeah, exactly. Master plan contains implementation chapters.
So if we change that to which list more than 160
More than 160.
recommended?
Yeah,
Or does it need a number? Which lists the entities, which
A
lists
number of
recommended actions and the entities
which
responsible?
lists recommended actions in the entities.
Give me the exact language you want.
The master plan contains an implementation chapter which lists recommended actions,
Okay.
the entities responsible, ...
Got it. Thank you.
I think the number was to impress, to show that, you know, that they
Yeah.
were, but I don't think that's,
More than a handful.
yeah.
Yep.
All right, so I have, including a space on page 3 above C, but in general, including a space as needed to give us a little bit more breathing room between the sections. I have adding captions. We have pictures on 2, 4, and 5, and I have those captions. I have dropping the A, B, C kind of order, and just sticking with the names of the headers, moving them to the center and seeing how they work. I'll tell him that we were mixed on the underline, so if he has a thought on how to do something that maybe doesn't look like an underline, but something graphically that might help give the same effect.
Well, we have, you know, on page 3, for example, at the very top is how to use this plan. You know, it's in it, and that's good because it's registered left, you know, so it's obviously not the same as the center ones. But I wonder if those two are kind of underline heavy, because it doesn't appear on the previous page what the master plan is, what the master plan is not, and obviously how to use the plan's a little bit different in intent,
Right.
but it's also emboldened and it, you know, bigger font, so.
So are you suggesting keep that the way it is, or?
I would just like to see kind of a visual distinction between the chapter, if we're calling,
Sections.
yeah, the outline sections and the subheadings.
Okay.
As long as you can recognize that you're still in the chapter, just because you picked another topic, by the time you get to it, you'll see the next chapter.
I liked from some of the example plans that you shared, Steve, the little infographic that showed the Venn diagram of the different, how everything's connected. I thought that was a useful graphic for sort of identifying the entities and the interrelationships between.
And do you think that applies to the section Brian's talking about?
Well, it's what the master plan is. I'm looking at the bullet 4 under what the master plan is, far-reaching and deals with all aspects of community development. So it's zoning, conservation commission, PSU. I guess to me it's sort of an infographic that covers this point.
Yeah.
Okay. Give me the name of the point again so I can. Jack's helping me with it.
Yep, the master plan is far-reaching.
Page 2, bullet number 4. Yep. Okay. Page 2, bullet number 4.
I guess in general, I was hoping, this is still very text dense, looking at page 3, it's text.
Yeah.
And what I liked about some of the example plans were the added in little graphics that sort of covered the text in a visual format.
You see that, just the text.
Where would you put that?
In place of the bullet?
That's not my job.
Touche.
Page 7.
We're going there.
So it would be the idea with that would be to graphically and visually show all these different entities that are involved and how they sort of, and I think that's a good idea. I think it's a great idea. And so I think it would be nice to give specific feedback where this should appear. It could just appear between that bullet point and what the master plan is not. Unfortunately, we don't have the guy. It'd be nice to be able to play around with this
The text can wrap around it. I think he can fit it in. What I'm more worried about is what are the things we're going to show in the Venn diagram so that he can create that visual. Because these, I can see what you're saying, but I don't know that we want to be stuck with just these words.
Yeah. Right. That would have to be kind of like a preface to what the diagram's about. And it would be community involvement, community partners, you could list them out by. And it doesn't have to show who's got the most. If we're going with a typical Venn, that would be great, though they tend to be kind of large just because of the overlaps.
So maybe is it more an issue of like community outreach and involvement? I'm trying to think of the right word, but like inventory of resources, visioning for the future, and like the master plan shows up in the middle?
The master plan would be in the middle of all, the town administration and citizen involvement and the various land use boards.
And so where should that go? Where would we put that?
I think it would go in place of bullet 4 in what the master plan is.
In place of or just?
Well, we could use all aspects of the community are interrelated, and any recommendation should consider what is best for the community as a whole. You could put that and then show who was both contributing and serving for the plan.
Yeah.
How about this? I can ask him to create that kind of a Venn diagram with the master plan in the middle.
Yeah.
Do you have something?
Well, on page 7 of the Newbury plan is that little pyramid that talks about a vibrant village and sense of community, recreation and leisure, healthy neighborhoods, good jobs, good schools, quality health care. But there was another one that was 3 circles that I'm
It might be from the Dover one.
scanning for here.
Yeah, I think in Dover.
And they say they highlight different points. Was the Dover one the stewardship of resources?
And I think there were 2 different Venn diagram type images that were created for that committee.
Oh, well, this has got natural infrastructure, social infrastructure, built infrastructure, stewardship of resources encompassing natural resources, energy, social capital, natural hazards, coastal management, and historical and cultural resources. I thought there was one with 3, but I'm not finding it. I just would like to break up the text somehow with information that is duplicating what's in the text.
So it just delivers the information another way.
Exactly.
Okay. Well, I mean, I can have him work on this simple Venn diagram for now, and if we want to continue to think about other ways to portray this, or if we want to take the topics from volume 1 and have him create an image, we can do that.
Wordles are very popular in these samples.
People love Wordles.
I don't know. It does the job.
No Wordle here.
The Wordle does the job.
When do we want to get this out to the town again for feedback? To make it sort of public?
We're thinking May, June, July, right? Wasn't that the?
So we still have time to, I just,
You're gonna lose him. He's a senior.
Yeah.
So you're gonna lose him in like end of April, but
Yeah.
he doesn't think he thinks he'll have this whole thing done in March, but then we'll just need to make sure that volume 2 is done.
And so my other question was, can we continue to work on, those sort of colorful extras, which I think are important. I think that it would be really nice, but still get the thing out without that stuff to get some feedback. Just so we're getting some necessary feedback from the town. It seems like we want that, right? Or we need that.
I don't know that you want to send it out until you have it formatted.
Yeah.
I mean, I would push to try to get the format of volume 1 done by him so you could send it out in April.
Yeah.
But even, I mean, we have a couple more meetings between when that's wrapped up. So you'll have another chance to see the 3 sections for volume 1 together, probably at least once, if not twice, before you decide if you want to send it out. So if you see a Venn diagram or something in that spot and you want to do it differently, don't worry about it. Like, we can take that feedback and do something different.
When you say send it out, you're referring to public hearings, right?
Or if you want to post it as a draft before you do the public
okay,
hearings
yeah, gotcha.
Start letting people read the way Christmas is. I can give him this concept. If you come up with something else.
I like that, Bridget. I like where you're going.
Yeah, I just think that this is kind of flat and plain and rectangular and boring and not eye-catching.
Right.
And I don't mean to, I very much appreciate his work on this.
Well, you could always stick another photo in there.
Yeah.
You're saying you want more something that
relieves
more information.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, it's what he's got here in the first part.
Yeah.
Okay, mix of downtown rules, unwalkable, this and everything. There's pictures that describe. I mean, so this is if somehow the pictures could be in the downtown bang, the walkable thing. You get that all in one.
Right.
And then the natural beauty and the recreational trails and stuff. Like I had mentioned before about Rainbow Falls. That's a nice.
I tried to get there and
You can't get there
can't
now.
get there.
No, I thought it would be.
I was able to
yeah.
I got some
So you're
photos.
thinking to add one or more photos to the first.
Well,
page?
yeah, any photos that what he's saying here,
Yep.
what he's describing. If you have the photos, that's just to me when I'm looking at something, and I've got they tell me what it is, and I've got a photo. It's like, okay, I've got the full picture there.
Right.
Otherwise, I'm just using my imagination, and it's probably nothing like what it really is.
Sure.
So that's what I was thinking, even before, as far as the whole thing. Once, if you describe something about Plymouth and we've got a photo to go with it, I think that's great.
Okay. We can do
Myself.
that. Yeah.
Can we get Rebecca in here? Why don't you go? No. I
just want to give up the gavel.
I'm not giving up the gavel.
Can you get there?
No, it's flattering, but no.
Sorry.
I just want to, like we're getting your feedback too.
Yeah.
And I will give up the gap, so
No.
don't.
You're doing a great job. I have a terrible sinus headache, which is why I was asleep on the couch when Brian sent me the text. So, so kind of along what Bonnie was saying, I wonder if we can get Polly to do like an infographic photo sort of thing that sort of illustrates all that stuff, but in a sort of
From the vision?
I don't even have it in front of me. So, yeah. So kind of what I mean, from what Bonnie was saying, is trying to those bullet points. If we can get some sort of infographic-y, but with photos. I can probably find an example of, but something that illustrates that way, and not just like a bullet photo way, but like some sort, like the
Dover has one on page 5.
It looks like a flower,
Right.
something like that.
So to get the same effect that Bonnie's saying, you'd have pictures, but assemble it in an infographic.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yep. And then I was also thinking, just as we're talking about trying to get more things that are illustrating what we're saying you were throwing around the word infographic, and I think that's fine, but we need to pick apart what needs to be the infographic as opposed to asking Polly to do it for us. So, so if there's anything in this chapter or chapter 2 and 3, I think it would be helpful to just give it to him and say, highlight. We want this to be illustrated in the. Yep. So.
You want to do that for the vision? Just tell him which of the bullets, or let him pick. Like I think as Bonnie said, some images will have a couple of things identified, or do you want them really distinct and have that many? The photos would be really small, the more we do.
Yeah.
Well,
I mean, I can work with them and probably come up with half a dozen that cover all the bullets.
Yeah. I think that if we can condense them into fewer photos, I think.
Right, and people will be able to see elements of this in the different photos.
Like a trail going by a farm field with a mountain in the background.
Okay.
I guess that'll do it. 3 of them.
All right.
How does everyone feel about how it prints out with the white around the outside? Is that okay?
Everybody loved it.
Okay, great.
Do you have thoughts on that?
We can't print to the bleed, and I think he's just putting it to the edge of the page, and we're just not going to be printing it to the bleed because we'd have to get a printer to do that. I don't have a problem with that. I just want to make sure everyone else is okay with it. I do agree more white space would be good.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah. And I'm going to reach out to him because I think I can help him with a few InDesign things to make it a little bit.
Okay.
Seems like he's been making them in 3 separate PDFs, and we can probably make that a little.
I think any insight you have that you can share with them would be good.
Yeah.
So along the lines of identifying what to make visual, maybe there is a way to sort of illustrate the process in a timeline, maybe. Starting on page 3, the updating of the master plan, it talks about the visioning session and then the town university and discussion. Then there was a transportation discussion, and then there was an economic development discussion, natural historic workshop, going all the way through page 5. So pages 3 to 5 is really a timeline of a process that included a variety of meetings. And I think that's familiar from one of your other examples that had.
So some kind of timeline graphic that shows how these pieces came together.
Yeah. Or a photo of a meeting, or, something.
Yep.
Timeline might work well.
Do we have photos of any of those meetings in our photo drop?
I don't think I've ever seen one. I don't know it was a newsworthy enough.
Right. Okay.
I can ask Donna Rhodes and see if she had taken any. I don't know if she was at the meeting or
Yeah,
not.
that'd be great. And if not, we can try to do something else. Yeah. Okay.
We could do a recreation.
Yes.
What else?
I'm fine.
That's all I got. I just think break it up a little, make it a little more
Mhm.
visually interesting.
Yep.
So I want to make sure we're on the same page of the order too. So we'll have a cover, and then acknowledgements before table of contents, or vice versa.
I
I think we do
think,
table contents first.
I think in these other examples, it's acknowledgements and then table of contents.
Depends if you do it on the back side of the cover. So then it would be the second page, yeah. It's really your call, what you want people to see when they first open it. What do you want, Bridget?
You brought-
Well,
You look opinionated now.
well,
Go back.
you know, many of these examples have the acknowledgements first.
Okay.
I don't necessarily feel that listing people who are involved is the most important aspect of the document, and would almost say put that at the end.
Whatever we want.
I
That could
think
be
if somebody
between
is-
the chapters.
I mean, I think we're representing about half of the people that are being acknowledged, so I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, to not highlight it would be a good idea.
No, I mean, I think we could, you know, I
That'll
don't,
be the cover.
Yeah.
if we've got a sort of a majority speaking to whether or not we're going to feel slighted by moving our own recognition to the back, I think.
I think if anybody's was interested in something, the table of contents, if it's first, because that's probably what most people are going to be looking for, because
Right.
they may want to see this specific thing. So they got it right there in the beginning.
All right, so cover, table of contents, and this could be a signature page too, typically,
Right,
planning board sign.
right.
You want that to follow.
Back of the cover.
So you want cover, signature page, table of contents.
Yeah, well, I'm only saying that because I don't think that you want the table of contents on the back of the cover, and why
Right.
was that page? Why not put the signature page
Yeah.
there?
Yeah, I think
Makes
that-
it look
yeah.
official.
I think that's great.
I have an embosser for the planning board.
Ooh,
So if you want custom embossing on your own personal copies of the master plan, we can do
I
that.
would like that.
Okay.
And then that's one less thing to put in the table of contents, because it comes
It's right
after
there.
the signature
Yeah.
page, so, you know.
And then we also have the summary that Jack had provided, that we were sort of talking as an abstract, that we wanted to have maybe as just a single page photos, I don't know. But I kind of see that before we get into the chapter 1.
Okay. So
and that might be a nice place for a bunch of pictures.
Mm-hmm.
you're gonna send that, or did you already send it?
I did.
Okay, you have
Or
it.
I think I did.
But I'll just
Yeah.
double check.
Yeah.
So
It's probably
and
the
it's
Squam buoys you sent them.
Oh my God.
That was friendly, Rebecca, by the way.
I was just testing to see if you guys actually read the things I sent you.
I hadn't read it, so I didn't know. So the summary is text that could be accompanied with some photos?
Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah. Or one big photo with, writing over it or something like that. But
Okay.
Yeah, certainly a clear enough photo would make a good watermark for something.
Yeah. Anything else? I'm glad we got to beyond the, it looks great. That's where we were at. 2 pages worth of changes. That's where usually where we end up, so I'm glad we quickly went into that. Because there's always stuff that can be improved.
Sure.
And this is definitely the time to start doing that, so that he gets a sense for the next one, he's going to send with it.
so he'll set up the graphic standards, and then it'll just be consistent throughout. So
Right.
It's a good indication why I don't do design, because the thing would have looked like just the way that North Country Council gave it to us. So, there you go.
Beautiful Word document. Nice.
everything would be spelled correctly, though.
Maybe.
Green Street. Backside.
Yep, behind Rand's.
Yeah. Depot.
Have these new photos you took?
No.
Okay, so we just need to somehow get them into
Well-
the
I
same
shared
spot.
I shared the Google
I
file,
saw that.
and so anything we put into that Google shared folder, he should be able to get to that.
Okay, so
And
we can get Jack.
We can just remind him that we're adding stuff to
I
it.
took these yesterday.
Great.
Is there any way to
Is there more to
find
pass
pictures
along?
of when it's like springtime and blossoms are out, or anything that's anywhere around on some of these computers that
Yeah.
Yeah, some of the ones that, who sent those, Bill, have, you know, it's spring, summer, and I think Jack has some like
Spring,
that.
summer, and fall is
Yeah.
just beautiful.
Yeah, so it's that, we don't want it all winter.
No, no,
Grass,
'cause
snowbank.
everybody's,
Yeah.
You
I've
just
got-
call any
Even
blank
some
page
ones
a
you
picture
just
of the
got
snowscape.
for just the-
We'll just call any blank page a picture of the snowscape.
This is kind of a
I
hard.
got a picture from a 7-year-old, just a blank piece of paper that says.
it is, it is.
A lot of color.
It is.
Nice.
Pretty great.
No cropping needed. Okay, I'll meet with Polly and give him these changes and have him go through it, and you're gonna see another version before you meet again.
Okay.
Because he worked on this on Sunday and he's gonna work on it again, so we'll just keep him moving along.
I'm the bottleneck here, not him at this point, so.
No, I think this worked great, because he didn't really start working on this till Sunday,
Right,
and here
good.
we are, it's Thursday, looking at it together, so.
And if any of us have feedback between now and when Polly works on it again, should we send it to you, Rebecca, or right to Steve?
Yeah, maybe just copy both of us and then,
Okay.
yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking, Bridget, you seem like you have a good eye for those other master plans and what you liked in those, and also some, you know, sort of the artistic sense, so.
Yeah.
And anyway, God bless him for doing all this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You'll meet him, you'll be able to tell him.
Oh, okay.
That's cool. Yeah.
And Rebecca, I think you should be in charge of
Just as long as there's no question. So we're good on that. Got enough feedback. Go over it. What was the other thing you had?
I wasn't able to get to Rainbow Falls, but Fox Park was a bugger. I actually took a fall there. And I've got them, I can plug it in and show you. It's up to you.
It's necessary to.
I don't think we, but maybe you could send them to Paul. Polly seems to have a pretty good sense of, I mean, except for the aerial photo.
Try and burn the CD here. and get the CD
Okay, all right. And
I can send them.
has anyone seen there's one photograph in there, and maybe it's too college-oriented, but the one at the clock tower where the mountains and the...
Yeah, that one that Bill had looking south, that,
Yeah, that would be an awesome cover photograph, because it's pretty spectacular. Have you seen it? And Bill labeled it something like, I'm looking for the uncropped version of this. But it actually has pumpkins, flowers. It just really is, you know, it sort of accentuates the idea that
and it's from away from the university, so the,
am I doing something awful? Yeah.
So it doesn't seem like it's emphasizing the university.
no, you see the clock tower with the pumpkins, you can see Town Hall Tower, and then you see the valley going out.
Yeah, and it was taken
Well,
with
the only two recognizable buildings in the picture,
Yeah,
actually.
but it was taken with a telephoto, so it really sort of foreshortened all those various ridges, so it really is. And it's vertically formed, too, the way it is now, so it would work on a cover.
Flag that for him.
I don't think we do need to go through all those photographs.
Now, and like for the guys, they're gonna be starting on the next part of the data book. The first part was the shakedown. Some of them had a hard time finding data and updating it, and I was letting them kind of police each other, and then eventually they did. And it's a lot of, you can decide if you don't want the planning considerations part in the data book, or if we just want to shorten it. But where we have a new vision, we have the implementation section. I didn't want them to be interpreting the town's work and deciding what those planning considerations were. It was kind of a reach. So we figured we'd have you guys take a look at that. And you might decide that some of them haven't changed that much. So it might just be an updating. You'll have the data right there.
So Rebecca, you're going to be sending something for us to look at and give you feedback. Is that what's?
From the,
Volume 2, the
Volume
5
2,
students
okay,
that are here.
okay.
Yeah, they just sent it this afternoon.
okay,
Yeah.
all right. I will send that around.
Yeah,
And they want it back in 2 weeks.
2 weeks, so thank you.
So we, and once again, I was trying to think exactly what we did the last time with the first 3 chapters. You'll send those out, and we'll give our feedback to you, and you'll sort of have a master copy that you'll make the change. Is that what we did?
Yeah, which worked moderately okay. So I don't know a better way to do it at this point. If they need it in 2 weeks, can it be 2 weeks from tomorrow? Can we get our,
Yeah, totally.
so we can, I can send it around and we can review and then make changes, or just give them our feedback after our next meeting. Do we have any applications for our next meeting?
Yes.
It's pretty cut and dry. Like a lot of the graphics, you're either going to like the data or you're not. And the data sources are the census and state agencies. Like last time, they used the same data sources. And the text is just updated to reflect the new data. So it's mostly just reading through the text and making sure that you feel it's not stating anything that's inaccurate. It's a lot of pages.
Yeah. Okay, so I will send it out around tomorrow. Brian, I'll let you make sure Bonnie gets a copy.
Yes.
And then we can, anything that's easy, well, I think let's just wait until the next meeting and we'll talk about it then. I think that would be the easiest.
Pages?
20, 30, something.
Oh, that's not bad.
Yeah.
Oh, that's
Yeah,
not
and
bad.
it's mostly, it's a lot of maps and tables and
A
charts.
lot of tables and charts. Yeah.
And I think I misspoke. I believe that it was the McGinley on Tenny Mountain Highway. He actually pushed it off until the following month. That would be, no, it isn't. It is this month. Yeah, the 15th. Okay, never
But
mind.
that's the part, but that's the, which I, yeah, we'll hopefully.
It'll be a regular public hearing
Yep,
on the 15th.
okay. But we've already seen the
Yes.
pre-plan for that, so that's good.
There were some maps you sent around.
Yes, those were the updates. I brought it to the board's attention that they they were old maps, and they updated them. I got them back from Greg. I think I sent them out to everybody this week.
Yeah, I
Okay.
got them, and I just didn't know if we were going to look at those tonight.
It was the same as what they were, but they were, the only one they principally changed was the map that showed the zones, and only because of the changing the village commercial and the highway commercial.
Okay.
The rest
All
of
of
them
that, and that
didn't.
was the thing you pointed out? Yeah. All right, so there's nothing, we don't need to give any feedback on that. What else? What else we got?
We should make sure those correct maps get to,
I forwarded them.
okay.
So, yeah,
Okay.
but we should make sure that when we see the maps that they are the most recent
Yep.
version, just in case he grabs an old version.
Yeah.
Could happen.
Ryan, I'm gonna let you make sure that they're the right, if you can double check
Yes.
the maps.
I've kept everything in electronic form that we've
Okay.
gotten from NCC, so
Yeah, you'll probably catch it before the rest of us will. on some of that.
if I remember to look at them, yes.
Anything else with the master plan we need to be doing tonight?
All right, so I'm going to type this up so we have a record of it, and I'll send it to you, Brian, so you have a copy of it, and I'll share it with Polly for hopefully for the weekend, so that you can
Cool.
work on it. Keep it moving.
Thank you.
Welcome.
All right, then we'll move on. New business. Anybody have any? Says here there's none to date.
I do.
Okay.
Reminder about the Planning and Zoning Conference. There's a handy little handout, and another reminder that the town will pay your expenses for that. I did receive a question today from an applicant. You folks saw a boundary line adjustment up on Fairgrounds Road involving the McLeod property. And then there was an application for a subdivision This was just about the time before Sharon left. And then they withdrew it. So that property went back on the market, and it was purchased. The fellow that bought it runs a landscaping and maintenance shop. It's Colby Lenentine, if you know Three Lakes. He owns property across the street at Steel Drive, and he would like to use the property for, he wants to improve the Woods Road. No structures. He would store landscape materials. And the question is, does this rise to the level of site plan review? Because there is really no permanent structure that he is contemplating. However, this would be the time to weigh in before it becomes another one of those rambling style properties. So he is good with either one, but I wasn't comfortable making that determination on my own.
So there's going to be piles of bark mulch.
Right, and the property is, and you can pass that around, Chris, if you'd like. More property is in the back than in the front, and there are woodland buffers on either side of the property lines. It doesn't show on the church side, but it actually extends a lot closer to the church. So what he's doing is improving the woods road inside the woods, and then he'll have a turnoff into the clearing of the field.
And his place is like over here?
Yeah, it's like over here.
Over here?
Yeah,
Okay.
on the other side.
Yeah, I know where he is.
Ryan, do we have a provision for like a minor site plan where he could come back and we could pull up his old site plan and just like amend it with any conditions we want to attach to the new property? Or would it have to be a clean restart just for this property?
He hasn't done, I mean, he's purchased this property as is, so he has never come before the board with this one.
Right, and we don't want to attach it to the other one, so it's its own.
It's absolutely is its own
It
parcel.
seems like where there are buffers that you might want to suggest stay intact or anything like that.
Right. You know, I guess by having it go through the planning board process, the conditions become a rule of law rather
Right.
than, you know, a bargaining chip.
Do we have a minor site plan option?
I don't think we ever really developed one. Sharon and I were talking about it because often you find that these things don't really rise to the level of requiring an entire survey or, you know, that it's kind of obvious, but it crosses a line somewhere, so it has to be dealt with by the board. I'll have to look into it, and I would like to see something like that where, you know, it would also, you know, it could be the same with a site plan review where you have a change of use within an existing property, no outward changes to it. You know, you're looking at different things than you would look at with a newly developed property for site plan review. So they probably can be streamlined, but I would have to check on that.
If you own property and you want to fill in an area, you can just do that?
Pretty much.
And this seems less impactful than that, doesn't it?
Yeah, but I agree with Brian that it's one of those things that if we don't establish a baseline and he sells the property, but it has this history, somebody else could start to do something quite different. So even if we gave him waivers on a lot of the site plan stuff to keep it pretty simple.
I agree with that. I would worry about what would sort of snowball or, you know, next thing you've got concrete structures.
You know, and it might even be a
holding material.
You know, public hearing without that, but just, you know, him saying, this is what I want to do. These are the conditions that I'll self-impose. Is there any others that you would like to add? And then, you know, it's almost like a contract at that point instead of the formal process. That's what I have to determine. If there's another avenue to do this that has the same long-lasting effects as a subdivision or site plan.
Do the abutters?
I was just gonna say that, the abutters get notified.
I think that's
And so
important.
they can, you know, question, you know, what's gonna be there. Is it gonna be
Correct.
something that's gonna be real noisy?
Yes.
Bringing in or taking out or whatever?
You know, I think Steve picked a real good point there because it doesn't really rise to the level of the big one. But to get it in front of people, and like Bonnie said, to get the abutter input, and then the board could weigh just about everything on the application other than what's pertinent to what he's really bringing forward. I mean, it's established property. He's not talking about filling other than building a berm towards the front of the property just to help with screening.
Yeah, I would prefer to do a
Okay.
site plan with a.
I'll get a hold of him
with
tomorrow and
waivers.
have him put on.
As many waivers as seem reasonable.
Yeah. I mean, you know, I don't know how much you really want to see as far as, you know, like topos or, the place was surveyed in order to do the lot line adjustment, so that's current.
Yeah.
It's not, there's really no low spots in that one that I see unless they're in the back. I had heard that the other part of the property that they separated it from is where most of the wetlands lay, and the steeper portions of the property. But he's certainly, he'd be willing to do any of this. He was, you know, the question was, do I have to do it or not? And,
Okay, right.
you know, to provide a less, I don't want to say strict, but understanding what the project is versus, you know, there's got to be a little bit of give on both sides. And that's all I had to bring forward.
Any other new business? Unfinished business. Did you want to talk about the, or did you just mention that, the flyer distribution? Okay. In public comments,
Yes.
Frank Miller.
Frank Miller, you're in this previous discussion about this application for site plan review. You could use the current use profile when the town requests people to identify a part of their property under current use. It can be hand-drawn, not to scale, but to only indicate what's on that property of current use or non-current use relative to what their home site and other uses are. So there's I'm sure there's a word description that they have downstairs when someone applies for a current use abatement that might be helpful with this.
And you're right, curtilage is the word you're looking for. So you have to subtract your homestead away from your current use lands. But that's a little bit different because he's not looking to, it's mostly cleared in the front. He's not going to need an intent to clear the woods road. I've looked into that. You know, but he would, you know, at that point be saying, this is where I'm going to be doing the work. And that would be part of the site plan review too, I think. But yeah, and like I said, he's willing to go along with any of this, but you know, he's looking far enough ahead to see, you know, what is required and what isn't before he got into trouble.
Any other comments from the public?
I just want to apologize again for forgetting. We had a meeting tonight. So.
Would anyone make a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
I'll second it.
Anybody opposed? The meeting is over. Thank you. Thank you.